What's going on, everybody? This is Pac from Pac's Perspective.
And this is Jared from Frosty Films.
And we are coming to you with Schlock Talk, Episode 2. I don't know about you, Jared, but I'm ready to talk some schlock.
As I am as well, my friend. Schlock is a very important aspect of this podcast, and we will do our best to deliver you the schlockiest talk to ever schlock.
And we have watched plenty this month, in the month of April. The main topics of today's episode being the Super Mario Galaxy movie, the drama starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, and Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic. We have a lot of thoughts to get through today. I think it's going to be a great conversation. But before we dive into all that, how have you been in general, dude?
I've been pretty good, to be honest. You know, after the huge burden known as the Oscars came and went, I had to take some time for myself. I need plenty of time to recover because the Oscars, they hurt me more and more in ways I never would expect. But I'm doing better now. I'm recovering at the pace I need to, and that's what's important. So we're doing our thing. Right now I'm just trying to establish some good habits again, such as good sleep quality, working out consistently, and just trying to be grateful for the little things in life, you know?
Dude, that gratitude is what it's all about.
So, all in all, I can ask for more, but as of right now, I'm just kind of happy that I'm getting back to the basics, and, that's all we can do, right? So, all in all, I'm doing all right, and I want to ask you, how are you doing?
I'm solid, dude. It's a very busy season going into the spring. I'm getting back into community theater. I'm doing a local Shakespeare production in May. This is my first time doing community theater since 2023. It's been a little bit since I've done it, and I'm excited. It's been a good time. As far as general life stuff, I'm enjoying the changing of the weather. I'm glad we're finally getting out of the winter droll. But yeah, we've been watching a lot of schlock in the month of April, and I'm excited about our conversation. Apart from our main three, what I've been watching is some anime again. I've been getting back into anime. I'm showing my girlfriend Your Lie in April, which is my favorite anime of all time. It's like my 8th time watching this. I love that show. I'll definitely make a video about it eventually. But besides that, I've been catching up on Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3. I love the show. It's a lot of fun. It's complete nonsense. It doesn't really try to pretend to be anything exceptionally deep or profound. It's just like, we're just going to find any excuse to throw hands every other episode, and it's Mappa animating it, so they kill the game. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. That's what I've been watching. What have you been watching in general? Any one-off movies or TV?
I haven't been watching as much as I would like, just because I've been busy, just the basics, and so haven't been watching a crazy amount, but the little I have watched has been a little bit of good, a little bit of all right. Something like The TED Show was the definition of just okay, which honestly, that's all I can ask for when it comes to any TED adjacent project, because I was not a huge fan of that first movie. But this one, it's all right. It's kind of hit or miss when it comes to some of the jokes in typical Seth MacFarlane fashion. But the jokes that do land, they're pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but they got him.
Yeah, they got him. As in, they got me with a couple of the jokes. Yeah. So overall, I was pleasantly surprised by that show. Other than that, I revisited Boogie Nights and 500 Days of Summer, 2 of my favorite films of all time. They just kind of hit me in the right feels when I really need them to. And so overall, it was a decent month of viewing. And yeah, I'm excited to just talk some schlocks, talk about some of these bigger projects that we caught up on during the month of April. And so, yeah, with that, do you want to take it away?
There's a huge universe out there. With a lot of galaxies.
The Super Mario Galaxy movie came out in theaters on April 1st. We saw it with a healthy group of 20-somethings, just fellow Nintendo fans. You know, why isn't Nintendo adult a coined phrase like Disney adult? It's the same principle, really.
Or AFOLs, which is adult fans of Lego.
Yeah, something like that. I think I enjoyed talking shit about it and just like our general reaction to it immediately after. I enjoyed that more than the actual movie.
That's honestly me when it comes to some content I consume. You know, me and you and a lot of our friends were all in the Smash Bros. And so a lot of times when there's a huge tournament, weirdly enough, I'm sometimes looking forward to the podcasts that come out afterwards about it rather than the tournament themselves.
Yeah, so real. We were talking in the theater lobby for at least like 15, 20 minutes. And then we see them like starting to close up the theater and sweeping around and stuff like that. We're like, all right, it's getting late. We all have work in the morning. And then we go in the parking lot of the theater and then we talk for another like 10 or 15 minutes. I love that. Get yourself a group of boys, a group of guys that can talk about silly shit at any time of day. 100% unironically, you know, just like wearing your passions on your sleeve. That's a shout out to the guys for sure. But the Mario Galaxy movie, it's cleaning up at the box office. Surprise, surprise. Who could have seen this coming, right? What is this movie's current box office right now?
I believe it's around 850 million. So money? Question mark?
Yeah,
it's made
Super
some
Mario
money.
Galaxy has become a massive commercial success, grossing over $835 million worldwide as of April. We are recording this on April 30th, so it hasn't even really. It's just hitting a full month, and it's already about to get $1 billion. Yeah. We could have saw this coming. People are watching this movie. A lot of people are loving this movie. A lot of people are down the middle. And a couple people are straight up hating it. This is definitely, I think it's fair to say, this is the most divisive movie of the year so far, huh?
That's a great question. If it weren't for a movie that we might be talking about in the near future, I would agree. But yeah, it's easily one of the most divisive films of the year. And partially for good reason. I'd probably argue for mostly good reason, as we'll get into. A lot of the aspects of the film did not work for me. And yeah, that's fine, right? But what's frustrating is there's a lot of conversations around people's opinions on the film and why some of these opinions you shouldn't take seriously because you're thinking about Mario too critically, and Mario isn't for that. It's just supposed to make you laugh and smile and be nostalgic for your life as a kid back in the day, just sitting on the couch with your buddies or siblings. And I'm sorry, I just think that's a bad take, to be honest. One, yes, you're not wrong. Mario is just a fun, playful, colorful character with a amazing world to explore, a beautiful cast of supporting characters, fun environments, and unique designs as well. That being said, to take that mindset and place it within the realms of a film, it just doesn't add up. Films are going to ask for something out of that medium that a game just isn't looking for. Now, some games are looking for that, i.e. The Last of Us, right? That is a story-based game. But Mario has never been that. And so a lot of people, I think understandably, will make that comparison and go, well, that's just flawed because Mario's never been that. And while, yes, you are right to a certain extent, at the same time, when it comes to an adaptation, you should ask for more, generally speaking. Mario, while not being a story-based game, when it comes to a different medium, you should ask for more out of a story, right? Mario isn't going to be able to rely on the gameplay anymore. And so when we're just watching these movies, we're essentially just watching someone play a video game for us. And I don't mind Let's Play here and there, but at the same time, if I'm watching a film, I'd rather not watch someone play it for me. I'd rather try to get inside the world of the mindset of the characters, how they feel, their struggles, their journey. And sure, there's glimpses of that, but it's so few and far between. And a lot of the ideas just kind of are hit and miss. And the second they're introduced, the second they go away. And as someone that thinks we should want more out of stories, I think this movie did not deliver. And I just am disappointed when I think of what Mario can be. And so I was kind of left disappointed, to say at least.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. I guess I'd say movies and games are completely different mediums. You're completely right about that. Movies don't have gameplay to fall back on. You know, a typical Mario game can completely get away with having a surface level story or a non-existent story because you play the video game and it's a lot of fun. It's well curated. It brings you joy and they're memorable experiences. A movie demands a different skill set, let's just say, from an audience member. You know, if you want, there's the amount of Facebook posts, tweets, YouTube videos that I've seen that are just like, are you serious? It's just Mario. What do you mean you want a competent story? It's like, dog, why are you even watching a movie at this point? If you demand this little from the media you consume, if you want to just let these billion-dollar corporations like Illumination put in the bare minimum effort and give you slop that you're just going to eat and consume like nothing else, why do you even watch movies? Why don't you do literally anything else? Because I don't know if movies are for you at this point. Like, you're completely, don't get me wrong, like, there isn't a wrong way to enjoy a movie. If you like this because it's fun and colorful and it has familiar characters that you enjoy, more power to you. There is something, I will say, there is something special about seeing icons that you've grown up with on the big screen. You know, there's something special about seeing Mario, Luigi, Bowser, Rosalina, Yoshi, you know, on an IMAX screen. I think the novelty of that, just seeing that represented in such a, you know, cherished format like a movie, that's really exciting and fun as a fan, right? But if you've been following these games for a while, you know what these things are also capable of. It's not like a Mario game has never had a good story. You look at the Super Paper Mario, you know, you look at the RPGs, you look at the Mario and Luigi game series, right? Like, there's been plenty of Marios with good stories. And even something like Super Mario Galaxy, the game the movie's based on, has a decent story with very interesting lore, and just has a sense of atmosphere and a sense of like accomplishment, wonder, melancholy. It pulls you into a certain vibe. It pulls you into a certain feeling that I feel like the movie just could not replicate. All the characters feel exactly the same. The writing is so shallow and bare bones. You know, the story is just Rosalina gets captured instead of Peach, and we spend the entire movie trying to rescue Rosalina from Bowser Jr. And they try to attempt some half-assed plotline of parenthood and things like that, and spoilers-ish sisterhood later in the movie, but like, it's so baby's first movie coded. Like, we're just gonna spell everything exactly out for you guys. And I feel like this is becoming more and more of a litmus test for good writing in a movie. If the characters are feeling flat and samey to you, pay attention to what they say. Pay attention to the dialogue. Because I feel like every other character in this movie, their dialogue is so interchangeable. Any character's lines could be said by any other character, and they just completely mesh together. Mario has nothing to do in this movie. He's like on the complete back burner. He's just kind of following along as he goes. It's just, I digress. There's a lot to be desired in this movie. As far as what we enjoyed about it, I think we can praise the music. This time around, the music was at least pretty good. They let him cook.
Was it Brian Tyler, right?
Brian Tyler, yeah.
Yeah, that guy he's kind of good at his job, right? I think I saw an article that he was in the hospital while he was writing a lot of the music.
That's dope.
Yeah. So shout out to him. He really gave it his all. And you could tell, right? Like, one of the biggest and most beautiful aspects of those original games was the music. The music just swells up and takes you for a ride and never lets go. And it really just makes you feel like you're right beside Mario. And it's such a beautiful experience. And I just wanted to take a breather sometimes and just really enjoy the ride for what it was, instead of always having something going on. There's always a loud noise, and there's always a new action scene to have, and there's just not a lot of time to just actually take a seat with these characters and, I don't know, get to know how they feel about something. Which, listen, I feel like the way I'm talking right now, it might come across as if I'm asking for a lot, but I'm really not. I just kind of want some basic character beats, character moments, maybe a character arc here and there. That would be nice. But it's just something that they're not interested in, because this kind of movie studio, Illumination, which I'll be frank, is probably one of my least favorite movie studios, if not my least favorite, because it's just so apparent that they don't care, that they just are doing this because they know they can get butts in seats. And that frustrates me as someone that loves the art of cinema, the art of the Super Mario world, and the art of animated films, right? A lot of people will compare this to animated films as in, oh, they're kids' films, so we should put them in a box. As in, that's all they are. Therefore, you shouldn't want more out of them in the story department. And that is so frustrating as someone who grew up with tons and tons and still sees plenty of awesome new animated films, animated short films. I watched a lot of short films during the Oscars. And so that to me is just not a valid argument, especially when I watch a bunch of these short films and they have a fraction of the budget and they have incredible stories with minimal dialogue, sometimes no dialogue, and it's just visuals going on. Even outside of short films, we think of something like WALL-E, where the first half hour is one of the most incredible first half hours of an animated film you've ever seen, and there's no dialogue outside of like those weird like 1940s TV shows that WALL-E would watch. Outside of that, like you're not really getting much out of this movie outside of, I know these characters, and I'll be frank, I love Mario characters. Mario is one of my favorite franchises of all time. I'm a Yoshi diehard. I was so excited to see Yoshi in the movie, played by Childish Gambino. Weird, but whatever. Obviously, gotta get butts in seats, so therefore we need famous actor. You don't. I'm sure if you got John Smith to play Mario, people would be in the seats. That being said, as a fan of these characters, it's great seeing them on the big screen, but I still want more. And at a certain point, I just can't be satisfied with what I am given. But, like you said earlier, you gotta give credit where it's due. Music was beautiful. I thought it looked beautiful, right?
The animation is stunning, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, the animation, that's where you can see the budget went. There's a lot more focus on the action sequences this time around. There's a couple of different fight scenes that I thought were very fluid and impressive and well choreographed. You could actually tell, a team of people actually storyboarded this and thought about the choreography and the impact and the movement. It's all very, very well done. I felt Rosalina's standout action sequence in the first movie where she's using her wand and her magic powers versus Megaleg, it looked so good. It looked so vibrant and gorgeous. And then they kind of just tease us with that because that's Rosalina does jack shit for the rest of the movie. I think part of the frustration is seeing how much they could have improved it if they would have just adapted it more closely to the game. Because like I said, Mario Galaxy, yes, it's another Save the Princess plot, but I feel like if you just wanted to, since they want to show off all these different Mario worlds through Easter eggs and things like that, you can do that as they're like collecting power stars to power up the Comet Observatory to go save her. Like, you could have very much followed a similar structure, been more faithful, and had a more compelling story. You could easily, they already did a 2D sequence introducing Fox McCloud. You could have easily done a like Ghibli or Pixar like 2D 2 to 5 minute, very slow moving, very somber Rosalina storybook section. Just like really conveying the sadness, the melancholy, the tragedy behind that character's backstory. You easily could have conveyed that. And it's like I said, it's frustrating because the blueprint is right there. This is the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Why don't you just do Super Mario Galaxy instead of messing around trying to set up a Smash Bros. Universe with Fox in there, Rob is in there, Pikmin make a cameo. It's the most ADHD movie I've seen in so long, where scenes just abruptly end and start and stop, and we're just going to one planet and the next planet. We're just ending up in all these random scenarios as like a Nintendo theme park ride, just for you to point and say, "Ooh, I know what that is." It's so unfocused. It's a mess. Movie kind of sucks. I'm really sad about it, but it wasn't good. Like,
I mean, to be fair, I did rewatch the first Mario movie, and wow, that was hard carried by the first watch. It's very bare bones, but at the same time, comparatively, this one looks the first one looked pretty great in comparison to this new one, because at least with the first one, albeit a little simple, at least I can latch onto Mario and his journey, right? Like, I've always enjoyed stories about finding yourself and gaining confidence and having that connection with your brother as well. Me and my brother, we grew up with Mario and Luigi, therefore we're going to have a strong connection to those characters. And so seeing them team up at the end, albeit may not earn per se, you still feel some sort of way of, okay, there was a beginning to an end. Maybe not everything in the middle was super satisfying, but overall, like, there's something there. I can't say the same about this one, and it's just frustrating. As someone who loves these characters, these games, this world, I wanted more. Even the actors seem checked out. All these Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, it gives off very much, I am getting that paycheck. I am reading these lines and I'm walking out, but I'm not going to put a lot of energy in. Yeah. And you brought up earlier how it's one of the most ADHD films you've seen in a while. And yeah, it's frustrating because it is true that it does feel that way. But there's plenty of films that I have seen that have that energy, but it's not a detriment. It can be a detriment, but you have to use that energy to your advantage. I think of something like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I think of something like the Lego Movie, another animated film. Those movies are as ADHD as you get, but there's a level of purpose and intent and heart and creativity behind those films that you just don't get with the Mario Galaxy movie. And even in something like the Lego Movie, Chris Pratt was actually trying. He gives a great performance as Emmett. That's one of my favorite characters in an animated film, if I'm being honest. I love that little construction worker dude. He has such a big heart. And it sucks because I know he has it in him, but he just isn't trying, and also the script isn't really doing him any favors, to be fair. So all in all, you just are left feeling disappointed, especially if you know what this could be, and you're not going to fixate on the brand that you grew up with. Because I, too, love the brand, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse to say, oh, but it's just Mario. No, Mario could be more. This might be a hot take, but I actually think this could be an Oscar-worthy animated film. Truthfully, if it's $1 billion studio, you could not tell me you couldn't get great screenwriters to help out and actually write a good script. Crazy concept. Anyways.
Script-wise, humor is super subjective, honestly, but the humor is so awkwardly painful in this movie. It's awkward in the sense that I kind of like smirked and kind of chuckled a couple times in our audience just out of like pity. Like, literally just trying to make it a little less awkward. You know those scenes I'm talking about where, like, Yoshi and Luigi are, like, teasing Mario about liking Peach, and they break out to singing, like, That's Amore, like, improv style? I felt like I was in a test group, like a early testing group, like screening the movie early, and they put that joke in me, and I just kind of awkwardly clapped just to fill the silence. It was embarrassing a little bit, like how repetitive and dull the humor is. It's just none of it is clever, none of it is visual or physical or situational. It's all just like, let's just put the most bland, generic version of any given joke in front of us and just hope it lands, because safety, general audiences, algorithms, testing, this is what works, right? Let's do the sloth joke from Zootopia like 3 different times. You know, like it's just so, it was a little painful. I'll say that.
To be fair, it sometimes is a harsh reminder that we are not the target audience, but that's not an excuse, right? Like, I know I've been comparing it to some other films, but like I think of something like Shrek, where like that has so many adult jokes that are going to go over little Timmy's head. But when I was little Timmy, I loved that movie. It was one of my favorite movies growing up because the story worked without the jokes, right? Like you could still get attached to Shrek's journey of self-acceptance. This, I don't know what to latch onto. Like as a kid, I'd probably still have a fun time with this, obviously, but outside of Pretty Colors, I'd probably walk away and go, all right, I'm going to go play Mario when I get home, but not think of the movie. I just want to play the games at that point.
There's so many family movies from every other animation studio that can just have me laughing my ass off. Like, the Spider-Verse movies are actually a lot funnier than people give them credit for. There's plenty of zingers. There's a lot of moments, jokes, scenes I can think of just off the top of my head in the Spider-Verse movies where I'm like, that's hilarious. Same, you mentioned Shrek a second ago. I was just thinking of Puss in Boots and The Last Wish. Plenty of funny scenes in that. Like, yeah, to be fair, for an Illumination movie in the humor department, there's a lot of restraint compared to their other work. There's no poop and fart jokes. I know that is the most bare minimum, surface level, you know, you get a C minus, just barely passing. But, you know, there's some restraint. Again, we're not the target audience, but I don't know, man. I just think the recurring thing we keep coming back to is effort. Just give us a little bit of effort. You know, the story that they attempt to tell is so bare bones and lies so flat. Like, they try to wrangle up some emotion with Bowser Jr.'s relationship with his dad, and, you know, he rescues him, and then Bowser's like, you know, I haven't been a good dad. But then Bowser Jr. is like not torn up about it in the slightest. So why would you even have Bowser like put that in there and feel guilty, like how he's a neglectful parent? And then Bowser Jr. goes, yeah, this is why I saved you. Remember that lullaby you used to sing me? You remember that like puppet show you used to do for me as a kid? You know, you used to tuck me in every night. And then flashback regales said puppet show in exquisite detail. It's like, you would not have to remind me if I was there. If I was doing it, you wouldn't have to tell me I was there. What are you talking about? And then it just barely comes full circle. You know, it's just so slap a bow on it. We're done with it. Here's all your Easter eggs. Here's all your references. Again, the action was really cool. They did go all out with it towards the very end. There's this really cute Mario Maker like sequence where Bowser Jr. is he has this control and he's just setting up all these traps, and Mario and Peach are like navigating it, and then they mean mug and aura farm at the camera when they clear the course. There's a lot more of that. Like, I feel like every character at the end of every single action sequence just kind of aura farms for a second. That was a little weird. It was so like MCU coded hold your applause type moments, you know, and they know they're gonna get hordes and hordes of theaters filled with Nintendo adults clapping for those moments. Our audience wasn't really like that. We were pretty tame, with the one exception of the Smash Bros. Character that showed up at the end, you know.
Do we briefly want to bring him up? Spoiler?
Yeah, sure. Like, this is the very end. You
All
know
right,
how
spoiler.
we feel about it.
Yes.
did a whole video on Mario Galaxy. You can watch that if you want to know like a condensed version of all this. But spoilers in 3, 2, 1. The Game & Watch cameo. I cheered. I'll admit, I clapped. They got me with that one. It was genuinely surprising. Like, I did not expect it.
I think this is a self call out. I think I'm dead inside because I just can't enjoy things like that. I don't know. Like, I saw him and I just go, that's a character I know from video game that I play competitively sometimes.
He up B out of shielded. He did the up B, dude. He did the parachute.
He did he did one of his best moves. That's in his top 3 best moves. It's frame 3 out of shield. It's a very good move.
If he would have did the fire, if he would have done the 9, he brought out the hammer. I'm surprised they didn't just have him 9 him.
Oh, I would crack. I would start probably obsessively clapping after that point. Just go, I know what that is, and I love what that is. And yeah, that's sometimes all you need, right?
The member berries, you know.
Yeah. Shout out to member berries. Yeah. So, Super Mario Galaxy movie could have been a lot more, especially as a lover of the games and knowing what Galaxy has to offer. It was really just Galaxy in name alone.
There's
it should have been called Mario World, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's what it was originally slated to be called, the Super Mario World movie, I guess. We didn't really talk about Fox because there's not much to talk about. Very nothing of a character. I think we're pretty both in agreement with Glenn Powell was good casting. He didn't add much to the movie. But it's cool that this promotion is being used to springboard like new developments in the Star Fox series. Like a new Star Fox game was just confirmed to be in development. That's really cool. The 2D animated like Team Star Fox backstory scene was really cool. Very well animated. It almost makes you wish the whole movie was like that. I don't know, since you have the talent and you have the budget, I don't know why you can't do the whole movie like that, but whatever. Star Fox was in the movie. That's all I really had to say about that. That is my boy, so I wanted more. I was a little disappointed, but whatever. I think we're kind of wrapping up with the Mario talk, but I think the last thing I want to mention is that they kind of shot themselves in the foot going with Mario Galaxy as the second movie in what is clearly going to be a bigger franchise. You know, I feel like this is something they should have built up with because, spoiler again, the post-credit scene, Daisy shows up. And it's like, okay, that's the hardest you could go. Like, you gotta go harder than that when you just gave us Star Fox in the Mario Galaxy movie. Just saying that phrase just even a couple months ago would have been mind-blowing to me, but we have it. That's what we got. So, like, where the hell do you even go from here?
I wish I knew, if I'm being honest. Will I see the next one? Maybe. Do I want to? Not really, but you know, I'm a fanboy. I can't.
Will it make $1 billion again? Hell yeah, it will.
Yeah, sure. And that's what matters, right? Money makes the world go round. Money makes the Mario jump. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I think I'm ready to talk less about this movie. I am ready to give it my score, and I would give that a 3 out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, I gave it a 4 in the review, and I'll stick to it here, 4 out of 10. The visuals were great. Music was awesome. Rest of the movie just kind of existed. Not a huge fan.
And that's okay. That's okay, right? Sometimes movies are bad, and that's okay.
But again, if this was your shit, more power to you. Like, it's the Mario characters on the big screen. For certain people that have loved this all their lives, that's enough. And if you genuinely enjoyed that, I don't think you should be disparaged for it. Again, more power to you. But we just kind of wanted more out of it. And that's our 2 cents on that. Moving right along, 2 days after Mario came out, the drama with Zendaya and Robert Pattinson came out. Not a lot of marketing for this one. I remember seeing a couple trailers last year, and I love how minimalist the marketing was. I love how minimalist the trailer is. It's very much like, okay, there's these two characters. They are engaged. They're leading up to their wedding. And everything should be perfect, right? But something's wrong here. Something eerie. Something mysterious. It's not quite right.
Ready and turn. Nice.
The wedding is this Saturday. What stories are you gonna do?
What do you mean, my speech?
All right, so before we got married, we did this thing where we said the worst thing we've ever done.
Okay.
I'll tell mine if we all do it. Promise?
Hey,
Are you serious?
So, yeah, how'd you feel about this one?
How did I feel about the drama starring Robert Pattinson, who is my favorite actor working today, and Zendaya, who I quite enjoy? I haven't seen a lot of her, but the little I have seen, I have enjoyed. Going into this, I didn't know much. The trailers didn't give away a lot. They were kind of leading you off the hook of the movie, which is, what's Zendaya's deal, right? Like, what is her drama? The premise of the movie is these two, being Robert Pattinson and Zendaya, are a couple, and they're about a week and some change out from getting married. And while they're with their friends one night, one of their friends asked them, hey, what's the worst thing you guys have ever done? Naturally, Robert Pattinson answers, and it's okay. But the hook of the movie is, what does Zendaya say that is so bad that the whole movie is revolved around it? It actually had a pretty good premise. I quite enjoyed what her trauma/drama was. Initially, you're hooked right away because what she has to say is so tense, so uncomfortable that it makes you go, okay, where do they go from here? And after that, you're just kind of thrown through a series of events and series of scenes and turmoil that they have to go through to really ask themselves, are we really going to go the distance? Are we really about to put our lives on the line? And are we really about to spend the rest of our lives together? And what does it really mean to love someone? You know, when that kind of bombshell hits you, how do you move forward after that, right? I don't know how I would react, but that's kind of the basis of the movie. We have to see how Rob reacts to the situation and see if he's willing to go a distance and come out the other end unscathed. And when you hear something like what she says, I don't know how you can look at that person the same way. And so it was a very interesting analysis of what kind of trauma can do to make someone look at someone a different way, especially someone that you love and someone that you see yourself spending the rest of your life with. That stuff changes someone, and if anyone was in their shoes, everyone else would probably question why you're still with them. But when you love someone like that, it's hard to just walk away. And so on that premise alone, it had me hooked. I quite enjoyed their journey. The performances are great as usual. I love both of those actors, like I said earlier. There's a level of sincerity and calmness to them when they need to, but also a level of depravity that I really appreciated as well. And it was just very interesting the way the movie was structured and edited, where it did a lot of showing us how these characters felt with little dialogue. There's a lot of quick edits to how these characters were now reacting to their current situation, their current partner, and what happens when you hear something as dreadful as they do, and how it shapes and changes your perspective on what they look like. And so you just, at that point, for a lot of us, we just can't see someone the same way. And having those thoughts, it becomes a burden to the point where you just don't know if you can look at your partner the same way again. And on that note alone, it was very enticing. So overall, I really enjoyed the movie, and it was quite an interesting journey. And yeah, I quite enjoyed what I had to offer. How about you, my friend?
Yeah, I second everything you just said for sure. I loved it. This is my favorite movie of the year so far. 2026 is stacked. It's not likely that it's going to be my favorite movie of the year when it's all said and done, given our upcoming slate. But I really, really liked it, man. I vibed with this movie. It's such an effectively told story. This is the second film I've watched by director, writer Christopher Borgli. The other film I watched with him was called Dream Scenario. It starred Nicolas Cage. It had this kind of psychological social thriller aspect to it. And the drama has some of the shades of that as well. This is definitely a high tension, little bit psychological. There's the shades of thriller in there, like social thriller, social horror. It puts you... I love movies that put you in very uncomfortable and horrifying social situations that you might be all too familiar with. Just the most uncomfortable conversations you can have with a person, and like worrying about Freudian slips, worrying about coming across a certain way or saying the wrong thing in front of someone you care about, and worrying how they're going to see you afterwards, like you were talking about, right? These are all situations that we're all familiar with on some level, and the movie just does such a good job of riding such a razor sharp line of tension throughout the entire runtime. But it's also smart enough when knowing when to break that tension. I felt like the humor was very well delivered, especially by the side characters. There's two best friends in the movie, like the best friends of the couple, and they're just kind of their maid of honor and their best man, trying to rope them through and say, okay, they were the two friends at the table that night. They're played by Mamadou Athie, and also Alana Haim. So they provided a lot of excellent comic relief. We're going to touch on spoilers a little bit, and there's more I want to talk about with their characters, but just talking about the movie in a broader sense, I really liked it. Like you said, the performances, Zendaya and Rob are so good here. They're a very believable couple. Robert Pattinson is one of the most dynamic actors working today. His range is unlimited. There is nothing this guy cannot do behind a screen, from playing Batman to freaking, from playing Batman to this deranged cult-like preacher in The Devil All the Time, to Mickey 17, where he played various versions of himself. His range is to Tenet. He plays a very suave, completely debonair character. In Tenet, he plays this very streetwise rugged character in Good Time. This dude's range is insane. I just love watching him work. It's so apparent when he's behind the camera how much he loves and completely commits to the craft of acting. All of his vocal changes, his mannerisms, his physicality, he always just seems so present in any given scene. And honestly, Zendaya matches him here, I think, in that. I think they were very well cast together as a couple, where this movie relies so much on its tension and its balance of information and power. They kind of, once the bombshell is dropped and the movie completely takes a turn, there's kind of like a cat and mouse dynamic to it, where Pattinson's character is going through doubts, like, this is a crazy ass scenario I'm dropped with. Do I go through with this? But he's having doubts, but he doesn't want to let on that he is having doubts. And Zendaya is just trying to salvage the situation. Like, holy shit, can we still go through with this? Does he see me as a monster now? So they're constantly withholding emotions and information from each other. And that dynamic was just really refreshing and super entertaining. It is a very textually rich movie. There's a lot of ethical debate that has to do with the themes of action versus intention, moral posturing, lots of real world issues that we'll get into in a second. But overall, from the performances to the humor, the direction, the editing, this was a lot of fun, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it. Very easy for it to slide under the radar, especially in the jam-packed month of April, and being released right after Mario, right before the Michael Jackson movie. But I would recommend it. I would wholeheartedly recommend it. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I'd say go watch it as soon as you can. especially if it's still in theaters, definitely support a movie like this, you know? Yeah, 8 out of 10 from me. What would you give it?
I'm right there with you, my friend. Solid 8 out of 10 for me as well. Quite enjoyed this one. Looking forward to a rewatch, especially considering I pulled a classic Jared, as in I missed the first couple minutes because I was late on my bus, and you know how that be. So it is what it is. I'm looking forward to a rewatch. Before we move on to our next topic, did we want to briefly cover spoilers? Yeah, why not? So, spoilers real quick. Do you want to count down?
3, 2, 1. Spoilers. This is like a very Trojan horse of a movie. It sells you, it hooks you in with the star power of its 2 lead actors. You go in not really knowing what to expect. And when the bombshell is dropped, the whole movie shifts and it becomes very intense from there. Yeah, so the bombshell being... you want to go into it?
If you insist, I will do as you please. The bombshell was not for the faint of heart. So Zendaya, her character as a 15-year-old, she brought a gun to school and was considering being a school shooter. Yeah, that's what it was. And just like you hearing this, if you were there, as I was during the theater, you were in shock and your mouth was wide open. Naturally, the characters around her question her as far as how she got to this point, if she's joking in the first place. And that is the unfortunate part of the situation, is there's not going to be a great way to respond, because how do you respond to that, right? No one that I know has ever told me that, and nor do I ever wish to hear that, right? It's a very scary subject matter, regardless of what age you're at. And even though when we meet them, she's, I believe, 30 years old, hearing that she did this about 15 years ago, it still haunts you, because you ask yourself, is this person still that person? Have they changed? Or is it just something where at any moment they could snap and they could become that person again? And at that point, do we still want to be around someone that could snap at any moment? These kind of questions are going to come about, and you have to consider what to do next. It's something very important to think about. And so a lot of the characters around them have to think about that stuff, especially her partner and her friends, to a point where they're considering calling the cops on her, and Robert Pattinson is on the same page for a while, and you just have to see where they go from there.
Yeah, and speaking of her friends, we got to talk about Rachel, the most hateable character on films in the movie. Rachel is something. Rachel is a piece of work. I love the scene, the like confession scene, where they're just getting drunk, they're having a good time, they're planning out their wedding meal and stuff like that, and discussing wines, and then they have a bit one too many. They fuck around and find out, and they start that scene. There's so much to talk about in that scene, because the other characters go first, and Rachel drops kind of like a mini nuke herself, saying like a couple years ago, before the events of the movie, she was being creeped out by a kid. She was being creeped out. The kid was clearly mentally disabled in some way, and was being creepy to her, and she led him to a trailer, locked him inside, and then ran away. When he was reported to be missing, I think she did help the cops. She did tell the cops. She actually did not tell the cops.
Did not say ish. She eventually said she would consider it, but it was only if it got to the point where they could not find him.
Yeah.
So she didn't actually...
So she did a terrible thing. Mm-hmm. Someone with not their full mental faculties about them. She locked them in a trailer, ran away. He could have been there until he died, or whatever the hell, right? Like, also a very terrible thing. And that's where, like, the ethical debate kind of starts, right? What is worse? something that Rachel actually did versus something that Zendaya's character thought about doing. You know, like there's this like moral, there's this interplay, right? And Rachel is very funny because she's the one that takes Zendaya's. There's a lot of moral posturing with Rachel's character. That's a recurring theme in the movie where she is performatively outraged by Zendaya's. I can't keep saying Zendaya's character, dude. What's her actual?
I love saying Rob. And we can call her Z. Z Money.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we're getting.
Robert Pattinson's character's name is Charlie. Zendaya's character is named Emma. You know what? I'm just gonna keep saying Zendaya because like you're not gonna Emma, Rachel, whatever. Rachel is an original character to the movie. They're all original characters, but like you know who Zendaya is. I might just cut this shit off. Like, basically, Rachel is performatively outraged because apparently her cousin got paralyzed in a school shooting some years ago. But when you meet the cousin, they're clearly, because Charlie, Robert Pattinson's character, he goes to investigate and learn more. He meets Rachel's cousin, and they're not even close. She doesn't fuck with her on any level. You don't get the impression that they're close at all. So you get this like moral posturing and performative outrage from Rachel. And there's also the scene, another scene where they're talking and Rachel's in an interracial relationship. Her husband's black. And she assumes, because he's black, she assumes that he was brought up around guns. She assumes he was raised around guns and that he should be more upset about this because of that. And he's like, no, babe, I wasn't brought up around guns. My uncle was a police officer. That's literally it. You know, so like you really get this theme of like fake allyship, right? And like performative outrage with her character. That's so interesting, and like just the way she stirs up trouble, you know, and she's the most mischievous character throughout the movie. She loves seeing when shit hits the fan. Very deliciously hateable character, I'd say.
Yeah, she did a great job. I've always enjoyed those despicable, hateable pieces of garbage characters, and she fits the mold perfectly. It is interesting to see those two go back and forth. Sorry, I am having a little brain fart. But point is, once we know what their issue is, you get the impression that Rachel, you said, right? Yes. Rachel, like, doesn't give, like, good friend energy. Where I feel like she's kind of been wanting something like this to happen. Maybe not wanting, but she gives the impression that she's been waiting for a moment like this to happen just to give her an actual reason to distance herself from her, to actually hate her for any meaningful reason. And that kind of character obviously isn't someone you want to be around. So when you come across someone like Emma, Zendaya's character, you kind of understand that knowing her background, yeah, she probably wasn't the best when it came to finding the right people in her life, right? She kind of probably had to just choose and accept what she had in her life instead of finding people that actually wanted to meet her in the middle. And we see that a lot when it comes to her backstory, right? She didn't have a lot of friends growing up. She felt very alone. And so what are you going to do, right? Like, obviously, a lot of kids in that situation wouldn't latch onto the ideals that she latched onto, but at the end of the day, you're only going to be able to latch onto what you're seeing, and what she sees is harmful, yes, but it's something. It's an identity, and it's a scary identity, yes, but you see that while this identity that she's trying to latch herself onto is harmful, it at least is giving her something to be, something to do. And it only is when she actually sees and hears about these real world events firsthand at her school, she's able to snap out of it. A lot of people don't get that chance, which obviously I'm not defending their actions. Absolutely not. It's a horrible, horrible thing to do. But at the same time, the movie did a great job for me, at least, of putting myself in her shoes and realizing, like, wow, like, I don't think I can get there, but I could maybe see how a kid could get to that point, especially with the rise of gun violence, especially when it comes to school shootings, and how that could affect someone with adolescent minds. So it's a hard subject matter, but it's important, and I'm glad the movie was serious enough to address it. I really appreciated that about the film. And I really appreciated the point in the film where she was able to find a sense of community, where there was like a school group that she joined that was trying to push back against school shootings. And she kind of found some people when she was in her youth, and she didn't have that for a while. So it was nice seeing that and having her try to explain that to her partner. It's very interesting seeing her try to make sense of who she was as a adolescent and try to make him see that just because I was that then doesn't mean I'm that now. And while she does it the best job that she could, or the best job that she thinks she can do, at the end of the day, when you're in Charlie's shoes, you can understand why there's only so much someone could say. At the end of the day, I still had that thought in my mind. And so there's a lot of awesome editing montages where he's viewing her holding these guns, viewing her as her younger self, and it's haunting. It really is. It doesn't make you feel well. It makes you feel very uncomfortable. And I think that's very impressive that the film was able to provide that reaction from me, provide the response of, wow, I can see how this child got to that point, but I also can see why an adult is now conflicted about marrying this individual, regardless of the fact that they've changed or not. So on that level, it's very compelling. And after that, there's another bombshell that happens. I'm sure there's something I missed. Honestly, I was a little tired during the movie. That's why I'm looking forward to seeing it again. But one of the biggest bombshells is when Charlie's at his job and he's bringing up what happened with Zendaya's character to one of his coworkers, and she is not on the side of, oh, they should be redeemed. No, she's very much on the side of, no, I don't care if they're this age now. I don't care if they're 15 then when they thought of it and they're 30 now. I think that we should still call the cops. At that point, he has a mental breakdown. She comes to his aid, and one thing leads to another, and he sexually harasses her. Like, literally, maybe a day or two before the wedding. But the worst part about it is she actually is going to that wedding as well. And yeah, do you want to say what happens at the wedding?
Shenanigans ensue. I don't actually want to spoil the ending itself in case someone is listening to this point and is interested enough to watch the movie, but I will say I just love this script. I really did not know where the story was going. It sets up a very clear scenario, right? A kind of worst case scenario. And you think you're slowly hurtling towards that scenario for most of the movie, and then it just goes on and subverts your expectations. Shit definitely hits the fan. Things go down. But not exactly how you think it's going to. You know, I just love how the story just constantly kept me guessing. I love those editing montages you were talking about, those very, surreal, but also tense and psychological. Oh my God, do I not know this person at all? Is this the worst part? He starts to reminisce and kind of reevaluate all the time she's ever been angry, all the time she's ever snapped or said something confusing to him. And he completely questions his entire life with her up until that point. The characters are just so well performed, so well defined. I think the movie did do a very very good job of addressing the topics of, gun violence in America and school shootings and isolation within kind of the digital age, and also, the online radicalization, how easy it is, especially for young, shapeable minds, to be radicalized to a point where they're willing to do something reckless and dangerous. It does a really good job touching on those things, I feel. So this was a great movie. I'm also looking forward to rewatching it. This not only met, I'd say it slightly surpassed my expectations. It was just about everything I wanted the movie to be.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I would probably agree there. I think it probably exceeded my expectations. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew, if anything, I'm going to get some great performances, and I did, alongside an interesting premise and script. So overall, no, I was very satisfied with what we got. Great film. I'm excited to watch it again.
Yeah, absolutely. The last topic of the day, Michael.
George Michael.
Q, can you lower the lights for me, please?
Okay, but remember, in here, keep those feet still, my man.
The Michael Jackson biopic, just titled Michael, came out on April 24th, and we watched it, and it was definitely a movie. This was, I can say this, it might be a little embarrassing to say, knowing what we know, but this was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, despite being kind of worn out by musical biopics as of late. I don't know, the trailers kind of sold me. I was very on board with just the concept of Michael Jackson's nephew playing him in a movie. He has the look, he has the moves, he sounds just like him. It has a solid director behind it. I was like, why not? I'm kind of hyped for this. It's going to make a splash at the box office. This is clearly the movie to see of the spring, early summer, right? This is, whether it's good or bad, this is the movie, right? This has eyes on it, right? So I was really excited about it. And then we got the bombshell about a week before the movie came out. The first screenings were not pretty. Critically, it was at about a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, as a reminder, if you don't already know, the tomato meter is not an indication of what people rate a movie after they watch it. It is merely an indication of how many people liked a movie versus didn't like it. So, for example, 27% of critics, it got a 27% critic score, meaning that only 27% of critics gave it a favorable review, and a majority of people did not like it. So that was a little bit of a red flag. It's not like critics have the final say in each and every movie determining a movie's quality, but it is enough to raise a flag of concern. So, and then we went and watched it, and yeah, I was disappointed. There's a lot to talk about with this one, but the first thing I want to say is it's confirmed that there's going to be a part 2, and it's the biggest layup ever. They have to call part 2 just Jackson, right? Doesn't it have to just be called Jackson?
You would think so, right? I mean, the name alone has enough brand recognition that they can probably coast on just Jackson, right? Maybe Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
But I think you just do Jackson.
How about Michael 2? How about 2 Michael 2 Jackson?
How about none of the above? Yeah, you would think it's gonna be Jackson.
Yeah, so the Michael musical biopic is exactly what it sounds like. It is just a movie that chronicles his life from the Jackson 5 era in the 60s all the way to the release of Bad in the late 80s. So it touches on a lot of points in his life, but it's most infamous, I think, for its grand omissions, all the things it missed and omitted, because the Jackson family were all producers on this movie. They had a lot of creative control on how we see this person throughout his life, and I think it really shows. There's a lot of, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a Michael Jackson fan. I would consider myself someone who very much enjoys Michael Jackson's music. The Jackson 5 era of Michael Jackson is my favorite era personally. I listen to Jackson 5 all the freaking time. I love that group. But I think the most disappointing thing for me was the fact that I didn't learn anything about Michael Jackson leaving the movie theater that I didn't already know, which is like a huge deal for someone like me, because I don't know. I just know the basics. I just know the PowerPoint, the talking, the common talking points, the basic bullet points of this guy's life. I don't know anything about him in depth. And even the people that knew him, he's kind of an enigma in some ways. This was a very enigmatic person, in a lot of ways. And a biopic has such a unique opportunity, especially if on the creative cast and crew side, it's his own family doing it. You have such a unique opportunity to give a new dimension and shed a new light on who exactly this person was. And I didn't feel like I really got that out of the movie. I feel like it was just kind of like a greatest hits world tour, sing-along track kind of movie instead of something that could have been a whole lot more.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Going in, I quite enjoy Michael Jackson's music. I'm not like an avid listener, but I do enjoy me some Michael Jackson. That being said, I knew there was plenty to learn about this unique entertainer's life that I have not known about. And after watching the movie, just like you, I don't think I can say I learned a lot more, to be honest. Not that I didn't know much about him, which I didn't, but at the same time, I thought maybe I'd learn a little more, which unfortunately I didn't feel like I did. We obviously see him through his humble beginnings of the Jackson 5. We see his abusive relationship with his father. But other than that, we kind of see him go from one set piece, music piece to the next. Like you said earlier, it's just kind of a montage of his highlights, his highlight reels, to put it lightly. And for me, at least, I want more of that, right? If I wanted to just get the highlights, I could watch a little documentary on YouTube, which I did the day after. Or I could briefly go on Wikipedia and skim it a little and see all the big things that he did and all the big moments he had. And that's what the movie focused on. And so on that note, if that's what you want, you will be satisfied. You will be entertained. I will admit the musical numbers themselves were really good. Some were great, honestly. They did a great job of recreating those iconic moments that we all know and love from Michael Jackson. That being said, I personally want more, right? If I go into a movie about a famous icon like Michael Jackson, I kind of want to know the man behind the mirror. And I didn't really get that. What I got was just something that I could really just find out on my own accord. And granted, you could argue that about a lot of these biopics, but a lot of the better biopics, they really get you into the mindset and the headspace of these characters. With him, I felt like I was more of someone in the crowd instead of one of his brothers, one of his neighbors, someone that knew him. And I know that not a lot of people knew him like that, but when it comes to a film narrative format, I want to see some unique dynamics when it comes to relationships with his brothers, his mom. That was probably one of the better parts. Him and his mom, they had good banter. And his dad was also one note. So it just left me wanting more. I wanted to really get to see who this guy was when he wasn't on stage. And yeah, you see, there's a handful of scenes that do that for sure. It's not like he's going to be on stage the whole movie, but anytime he wasn't on stage, I just wasn't invested. A lot of the lines were just so ham-fisted and corny, and you could argue that's a byproduct of the times, maybe. Sure, I don't know, but point is, it just did not hook me in the way it wanted me to. So yeah, I was left quite disappointed. Jafar Jackson, he did an okay job. I'll admit that. He did fine for what he was given. The script doesn't do him any favors, that's for damn sure. But, like, I have heard and seen that he's been practicing MJ's movements for years now and trying to recreate his look, his voice. And on that note, he did a good job. I will admit that. But I just wish the script was able to help back up his performance.
Yeah, that's completely valid. I think with a movie this big and a movie this culturally relevant, Michael Jackson is a lot of things to a lot of different people. He's not just ubiquitous to pop culture, he is pop culture. There's so much of music and dance and entertainment is just pure Michael Jackson coded, is just purely Michael Jackson influenced. He's a lot of things. And for a movie to come out like this and do such an exceptional job with the musical sequences, with the just, mannerisms, the speaking voice, the movement, the quirks of Michael, Jafar Jackson did a fantastic job. I agree that the script didn't do him any favors. The writing could have been a lot better. But as far as pure performance-wise, especially when he's singing and dancing, they killed it. Especially, man, I love the bad concert sequence at the very end. That shit was amazing. The music, the production, the lights, the choreography, it was all so good. Made me feel like I was at a Michael Jackson concert. If you want to look at this at face value of just like, this is a tribute to a very special person produced by a lot of his family members, right? If you want to look at that just purely through that lens, it's a little sweet. It's a little endearing. The fact is, yes, it has critics are trashing the movie. A lot of people aren't liking the movie. I was personally disappointed by it, but the things I did like, I liked enough that I understand why a good amount of people are loving it. There is a lot of positive word of mouth. You see all those videos on social media, people breaking out in full Michael Jackson garb, doing the dances and stuff like that while the movie's playing in the lobby. Just personally, people in my circle that have watched it generally like it. The fact that they got the music right and Michael Jackson's mannerisms and things like that, that's important to note. This is like really important to a lot of people, especially if you grew up like listening to him, observing him, loving everything he was doing. I think it's a little hard for us, in our late 20s to grasp the entire magnitude of what they were doing with this movie. Because, we were still growing up when Mike was on his way out. He died in 2009, if I'm correct. So the old heads, right, in the theater that are like tapping their feet and kind of humming along, lightly singing along to the songs. I'm imagining like the Ratatouille moment of the critic kind of remembering what it was like, getting the flashback of what it was like as a kid. If you were there, we don't know what it was like to hear Thriller or Bad or Beat It as it's coming out for the first time. We weren't there. We only experienced the cultural phenomenon secondhand. So for them to recreate those moments throughout his life so painstakingly and in such a grand, dedicated fashion, the movie deserves some points for that, and I understand why that's enough for a lot of people and why that's just like why the movie works for them. But again, like, it's such a overall safe and squeaky clean version of his history as a person, and not just Michael himself. The supporting characters like Joe Jackson. You know, if you know anything about Joe Jackson, dude was an absolute monster, a perfectionist, known for beating his kids' ass if they were out of sync, if they were out of tune, off tempo, you know? And Coleman Domingo is a fantastic actor, multiple Oscar nominated actor. He kills it in like everything he's in. I think his portrayal, his actual performance was solid, but I feel like the movie was just really holding back with how nasty of a person this person was supposed to be. I wanted so much more tension and fear. I wanted to be, some amount of me wanted to be afraid on some level whenever Joe Jackson was on screen, and the movie just doesn't fully commit to that tension in the writing or the performance. You know, it feels like they're just kind of holding back on you.
Yeah, I obviously feel very similarly when it comes to Coleman Domingo. Hell of an actor. Actually, fun fact, it's off topic, but I first saw him in Fear the Walking Dead, which is a spin-off of The Walking Dead. Not relevant at all. Point is, he's been around for a minute now, and seeing his career evolve and seeing him get better and better has made me a huge fan of him. But as far as something I really liked and took away from Michael's journey and his unique experience was his dilemma when it came to his voice. I'm not sure if there was a line that he had per se, but something that resonated with me was him trying to find his own unique voice amidst the industry that he was in. And hearing his voice on the big screen, it really resonated with me, the idea that he doesn't have a traditional voice. He has more of a feminine voice, and as someone who has always struggled with their voice, it made me really appreciate that in the sense that I got the takeaway that my voice matters, regardless of how it sounds, regardless of what body it comes from. It's who I am, it's what I sound like, and on that individual level, that matters, and that's all there is to it, and I appreciate that.
There's an attempt to brush over, I don't want to say this. The movie tries to bring Michael full circle as a multidimensional person that really explored the power of music and the ways music could bridge gaps between people coming from different walks of life. I appreciated that. I appreciated them touching on his philanthropy, him visiting Make-A-Wish kids in the hospital, him being very generous in the public, signing autographs and things like that, his love for animals, his love for giving back. I liked that they tried to, that those aspects of the movie were present, but they ultimately felt very distant. They felt very like from the outside looking in. We don't get a lot of Michael's individual perspective throughout the story. The main conflict is him trying to be his own man, his own independent artist, apart from the Jackson 5 and the Jackson brand as a whole. That's like his main personal struggle. But the conflict is just, the script is so weak, the dialogue is so uncompelling, you know, they just straight up say everything they're feeling all the time. Michael just keeps saying over and over, I want to be my own person, but my family won't let me, my dad won't let me. And then his mom always comes. Nia Long also does a good job, but like Coleman Domingo, not a lot to work with. She always comes in and says, you got this light, Michael, you're special, you're different, you got to let that light shine. Miles Teller is in the movie as his manager. He straight up could have been played by anybody. He did not add a crap ton to the movie. And they just kind of reaffirm his greatness and his presence and his light. But it's all so surface level. It's also, this is the historical, squeaky clean retelling of Michael Jackson's life. There's just so many omitted details. You know, like I didn't feel like we got any real insight to who he was as a person because the movie's pacing and editing is just so bewildering. It's garbage. It's trash. The movie just jumps around at any given point. Giant ass title screens. 1986, release of. 1988, release of. 1969, release of. It jumps throughout time with such little cohesion or rhyme of or reason. It really doesn't give you any time to settle in. You know, like we get an opening montage of the Jackson 5 touring in the first like 10 minutes of the movie. And as soon as we're getting hit with biopic montages this early, I'm like, oh, we're cooked. Like they have too much to cover. They have no focus. They're just jumping around. They have too much to say. This movie's already a mess. It was really just, the execution just wasn't there. Like the Jackson 5 era of Michael Jackson is really my favorite era. And because of that, I wanted to know more. I wanted to see more of the pressure that fame and attention and stardom would have on a kid. I wanted to see more of his brothers. I know it's not the Jackson 5 movie, it's the Michael movie, but the Jackson 5 was huge. The Jackson 5 was a huge part of his life. And the brothers get like no personality. The brothers get they're not even people. They're mannequins. The Jackson 5 are the rest of the brothers.
They barely get lines.
They barely get any lines. It's just like, they're just such an afterthought. And I really didn't appreciate that how the movie just constantly jumps around. It's like, okay, a couple scenes with the Jackson 5, and then boom, he's 20 years old in the 80s. What happened? What the hell happened in between? We have no idea. We just completely bypassed so much time. How is Michael dealing with the fame as an adult? Yes, we know he wants to be independent, but we get no development into his actual psyche. How is this affecting him personally? Being the biggest person in the world, you know? What's he going through? We don't know. The movie doesn't go over it. I don't know. Just really disappointing.
Yeah, I feel very similarly. Why don't we see these periods of his life explored more? Well, I know why. It's because the movie doesn't have enough time to cover the slower moments of his life. And that's unfortunate because it's well written, I'm sure there's a great story to be told during his downtime. But the movie just isn't interested in that. And that's the frustrating part. Because at the end of the day, I can just watch those music numbers at home. And sure, some people don't mind that they're recreated, but for me, I need more than that. So I just left wanting more out of it. And some people say, oh, just wait for part 2. And I'm sorry. No, I shouldn't have to just wait for another part to get satisfied out of the experience. There's plenty of two-parters, trilogies, where the individual parts are satisfying without the entire meal. So on that note, I don't know. I don't know if there's much more I have to say personally about Michael. I guess it kind of briefly, I'll mention this. It kind of just ends weird, where the last part of it is, I guess it ends on bad, right? And then after that, once I'm Bad is over, it's over. His story continues. That's it. We're left with a title card, and it just is so awkward. And for a second, I was like, "There's no way, right? It's gonna like fade away, and then they're gonna show like an epilogue or something." And no, there's no epilogue.
It does kind of end in a weird place with the bad musical sequence. My hot take is that I didn't find the ending awkward or abrupt because it just kind of wrote me in with how good that final sequence was. To me, it was by far and away the best sequence in the movie, and the movie ended with a banger instead of with a thud. So because like a good 75% of the movie didn't work for me, them ending with that insane musical sequence, I was like, all right, yeah, I'll give it up. You got me there. Like, damn, I was really feeling it. Like the music, the choreography, the dancing, like Jafar was just in his element. Like, people are literally passing out. I don't know if you've seen these videos or heard. People are literally passing out watching this movie. Like, from the grave, Michael Jackson is still making teenage girls faint. Like, it's some crazy shit. the movie can kind of rest on its laurels when it comes to story and stuff like that, because it knows what a lot of people want to see. They want to see the hits. They want to see the making of Thriller. They want to see Beat It. They want to see Bad. They want to see Off the Walls. They want to see the Jackson 5 era. And it gets the job done in that department. But again, with a couple other movies we've talked about so far, we just kind of wanted more from it. But overall, I'd give Michael around a 3 out of 10, I'd say. What would you give it?
I'm on the same wavelength. 3 out of 10 for me.
To wrap this section up, though, we did have a very interesting day at the movies, didn't we? So we come in about the movie. We have a 7 p.m. showtime, and within the theatrical window, trailers generally take up at least 20 to 25 minutes before the actual movie starts. We get to the theater a couple minutes after 7, get our popcorn, whatever. We sit down around like 7:15, and the screen's black. So we're like, all right, something's up. Something's going on. Technical difficulties. We've been shut out of movies before due to power outages and general technical difficulties. So we were like, oh crap, are we getting screwed? But nope, they got the IMAX screen working. We got to watch the movie, and we weren't out of the woods yet because we were dealt with one of the most unruly crowds. This audience was rambunctious, to say the least. It ranged from like really basic theater etiquette shit, like cell phone chimes and just forgetting to turn your phone off, to the more obnoxious stuff like full-on conversations.
Conversations that had nothing to do with the movie, yes.
Yeah, conversations that had literally nothing to do with the movie. I kind of let the ladies behind us directly. There was a trio of older ladies behind us that were just really into it. Like whenever the singing and dancing and stuff was happening, they were kind of nodding, tapping their foot and singing along a little bit. That was a good reaction compared to everything else, because again, they were definitely there when this shit was coming out. I was trying my hardest not to hum along myself to some of these. Really, really out there side note that we didn't mention yet. The kid they got to cast as, Jackson 5 era Michael Jackson, he also killed it. He was really good. There were times, with these musical biopics, you're not always going to get live singing on set. Sometimes lip syncing is going to happen. But there was also times in the movie where they would completely cut the music off and they would just let the actor sing, so you could get the raw studio vocals of whatever track they were doing, and they just kind of let them show out. I appreciated those moments because then you could really see the talent actually on display there. So the casting all around, especially like Jafar Jackson and the kid's name is Juliano Valdi. He played Jackson 5 era Michael Jackson. Shout out to him. He hopefully a bright future, bright career ahead of him. Killed it with the singing and dancing. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, the theater etiquette was completely whack, man. Like full on conversations, just a lot of just nothing to do with the movie. You knew the movie was bad in the sense that whenever actual singing and dancing was going on, they were respectful, they were quiet, they were locked in. Whenever there was a dramatic scene of just the characters talking, that's when people were checking their phones, having full-on conversations. And in this case, I kind of feel like that's a little indicative of the quality of this movie. I don't know.
Well, you're not wrong. Does that make it right? No. I don't care if it's the worst movie in the world. I'm not talking over it, especially in a public setting. Now, mind you, if I'm at home and this is ass, we'll probably mention that this is ass. Yeah, it was frustrating. As a lover of going to the movies, it being one of my favorite pastimes, I get very irritated when people don't respect my space, and not even just my space, the space of everyone that's paid for this experience. I am notorious to standing up for what's right in my life, that being the movie-going experience, and one of the things that I will always stand up for is theater etiquette. And this is one of those times where I came close to getting up and letting people know, shut up, I want to watch the movie in silence. Now, obviously, I'm not that much of a stickler to the point where I don't want any noise. No, if you have a genuine reaction of excitement, fear, sadness, joy, then express it. You know, like Pac said earlier, those old ladies behind us tapping their feet, giving a little like, no, that's a vibe. That rocks. Like, that's genuine. When you're not even being genuine, when you're disruptive, you're not actually caring about other people's experiences, that's when I am going to have some grievances. So, yeah, I got close to standing up and saying something. I didn't because we only had so much movie left, but I've been that guy that stands up and say something when people aren't acting right. I don't like doing it, if I'm being honest, but sometimes you have to be the bigger person and you got to do that. And I'm more than happy to, because I just know that there's a lot of people that wouldn't. And I think people do appreciate when someone does do something like that. So I don't mind doing it, but at the same time, I don't look forward to it. It is uncomfortable for me as well, because then I look like from the larger movie going perspective, sometimes it is more disruptive than those individual conversations. But at the end of the day, it is necessary sometimes. And so if you do ever feel like you want to say something, say it. If someone's ruining your experience and ruining the experience for others, please say something. It will go a long way, and someone will be grateful when you do that. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. Going to the movies is one of my favorite pastimes. I love the theater going experience. This was one that tested me. This is one that made me question everything I held dear. It was not a good time. It was pretty miserable, but you know, you roll with the punches. You take what you can get. Sometimes the dice roll isn't in your favor. But yeah, we got plenty to talk about next month. We got a couple big releases coming out in May. We have Devil Wears Prada 2. We got a Mandalorian and Grogu. We have Mortal Kombat 2. Oh boy. I'm looking at this release schedule. There's plenty of schlock. And we will be there to provide the talk. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the movies we talked about today. I'm Pac from Pac's Perspective.
And I am Jared from Frosty Films.
Our socials will be in the description. Take care, and thanks for listening.